Hey traders, checking in on the cryptocurrency space. So the dollar, we'll start it there, is pulling back. We have not changed the daily trend yet. We broke the lower high resistances, so that's a start for a trend change. But we must see follow through. We must see a higher low and higher high for this bounce to see continuation. If we keep fading back down, and we're already pulling back pretty significantly, I'd say if we drop down to 92.50 or below, we're then going to be watching for a tightening range, which is a good sign for a bull in crypto, metals, and stocks. We know that those assets have been inverse to the dollar, and so this is a pretty good pullback at this point. And I would say we're close to ruling out the potential of a little daily bull flag, not just yet, but close to that point. So now the question from here will be, can we change the daily trend and see this weekly bounce follow through? And if the answer is no, it is a weekly bear flag, which again is best case scenario for a bull in any asset as far as trading goes. So that is going to be key for the next, what's today? Thursday. So we only got one more day in the week, and we're probably going to head into next week in a bit of an ambiguous area on this chart. Might as well cover gold real quick. I entered gold based off of the daily support. Beautiful equilibrium. Entered through GLD in my stock account. And now we're watching 1993 key resistance. If we reject from that level, we will be looking at a continuation of that daily equilibrium. So keeping an eye on the metals as well. Again, I am more comfortable being a crypto bull if stocks are strong and if metals are strong, because that's the relationship that we've seen ever since COVID started. And until we see notable changes over a prolonged period of time, prolonged only even needing to be a couple weeks, but until we see changes and breaks in these correlations, we're going to keep treating it the same way. So Bitcoin is trying its daily bounce, but it's still struggling a little bit. We're range bound, just straight sideways. I like it on the 12-hour time frame to show us our high of the initial bounce and a double bottom at the low, obvious clear support level. Another lower high formed at 10,441, and here we are testing that level right now. If that level breaks, we break the lower highs, the daily bounce gets underway and gets some follow through. If we reject, we could stay in this tightening range into the weekend. And that would obviously, at this point, the altcoin bulls would like to see that, because again, the altcoin bulls can thrive a little bit better when Bitcoin's trading sideways, and we are seeing names like ETH, which we'll look at in just a second, already doing that. So right now, the stock market, I put out those daily stock market videos. If you want a picture of the big or everything that's going on and all the moving parts, you should watch that and be aware of what the stock market is doing as well, because it is starting its daily bounce and now getting a bit of follow through today. So I would have expected Bitcoin to have broken bullish at this point. Some of the altcoins have. Dominance chart on Bitcoin has not changed the daily trend. It bounced, but again, remember, it's correlated to the dollar, and I don't know why, but it trades very similarly. So the dollar got a solid bounce, but it has yet to change the trend, and now it's pulling back a little bit. So that's an observation that we've been making for weeks, and we're going to continue making that as long as it remains the case. And so far, it's fitting pretty well. So ETH, the daily bounce is much more clearly underway. We did the same sideways game, but we got that bull break yesterday. And if you look at the S&P 500 chart on the daily time frame, it's pretty darn similar. And what's the biggest difference? There's more candles sideways. That was just sideways over the weekend. It was like the cryptocurrency space was just waiting, saying, all right, what's the market going to do? We'll trade sideways and tighten up until we get some clarity. And then, again, the bounce got follow through. It's attempting follow through with a 4-hour trend change here this morning. It's a key test right now. But I see a lot of similarities between ETH and the S&P 500. So we're going to look for a daily lower high, high of the bull move, low of the dump, and we are now scouting a lower high. And that's the case for pretty much the majority of stocks that we're watching. We're scouting the daily lower high on the bounce, and the size of the bounce is going to be very telling. Is it a big enough bounce for the equilibrium to then be the most likely scenario? Is it a small enough bounce to favor the potential of a continued downtrend? Right now, Bitcoin is a small enough bounce that we could definitely see a lower low, but a name like ETH that has broken bullish in the short term, the odds of dropping to a lower low decrease the higher we go. So ETH BTC is getting that same bounce. It's directly correlated to what the US dollar pairing of ETH is doing. And it's a pretty solid bounce at this point. It was sideways, and that bull break here is what allowed for the ETH bull break, while Bitcoin is remaining range bound at the moment. Back to Bitcoin 1 second. So for us to see a convincing 12-hour lower high compared to 10,441, we would need to see a loss of this 4-hour uptrend. So a break of 10,239 would start to shape up that potential lower high. So there's a couple key resistance tests right now as well, just like the S&P 500 is seeing this key 4-hour resistance test. Link. So Link is getting its bounce with a little bit more follow through, just sideways, 4 daily inside bars in a row. You won't see that very often in the crypto space on some of these bigger coins. But we got it, and we got the bull break, and we can tell with 10 hours left in the day, we're going to see increased volume from this pattern of a tightening range breaking. Was this a nice 12-hour equilibrium? Not exactly. Just a 4-hour tightening range. We did get a bear break by about 5 pennies with 0 follow through. But now we zoom out and we look for a loss of the 4-hour uptrend to indicate a potential daily lower high forming. Bigger picture, we are absolutely looking for a weekly higher low, and so far we are back testing and holding the weekly 12-period exponential support. And again, I'm just having all these charts overlaid because I'm trading USMJ stocks right now, and this is one of the positions that I am in entering on consolidation. And look at the weekly time frame, and look how similar this is to Link. Wait, wrong one. TRUL. This is my MJ, and this is Link. So there are so many correlations out there since COVID started, and the higher risk assets of the cryptocurrency space are very similar to the higher risk sectors like USMJ. BNB, V-shaped recovery, and we could see very early on that we were ahead of the pack on this bounce, and then was able to say, you know, if Bitcoin holds support, BNB is positioned very well for any little upside in Bitcoin. And now we have some hype where they made an announcement of an announcement. No idea what it's going to be, but have to be cautious of a sell the news event. If we fail to break 25.83 and then the news comes out and we don't see that push through resistance, you would want to be cautious of a bit of a pullback in reaction to that. But right now, a clear 4-hour uptrend with anything above 24.05 as a higher low, keeping the bulls in complete control. Definitely one of the biggest bounces I've seen, and it's not just a little micro cap coin that's doing it, so that's obviously very notable. Right back towards that level. XRP USD remaining weak. It has made the bull break as well, so at least it's no longer range bound sideways, and it's trying to negate the daily bear flag. Again, I'm going to need more follow through than this. And what I've been saying in the market videos recently is I don't use fibs to trade, but I know that my brain is recognizing retracement sizes when I'm judging most likely scenarios. And I can't just, you know, convey to people that, well, this visually looks like a bear flag to me, or this visually has bounced big enough, because that's no way to convey information to someone. So for me, you can use the fib levels. I use EMAs as well. Short-term EMAs, if they're rejecting the price, it's a potential bear flag. But it's the fib retracement levels. If we're under the 382, it's absolutely still a possible bear flag. And once we get to the 50% and higher, that's when we start looking for the equilibrium. And it's the same on the opposite direction on a pullback. So you can use that as a bit of a guide, but eventually it'll be experience from just looking at thousands and thousands of charts where you get a feel for it and you know what the retracement size is roughly. I don't care if the retracement is 40 or 45%. I know it's in that little range. LTC, a little bit weaker than XRP on this bounce attempt, still fairly sideways, and we'll then just be looking for a lower high. XRP and LTC for the majority of this post-COVID price action has been clearly weaker than everybody else. They had one period where that changed, where they did play catch-up and they did play laggard, but it was short-lived. So have to keep that in mind. So short-term, we are watching, can Bitcoin break its 12-hour resistance? If it can, the altcoin bulls are positioned well to benefit from that and potentially see even another leg up. And bigger picture, we are looking for daily lower highs to form. Loss of the 4-hour uptrends will indicate that they have been set. I would not be surprised if stocks form daily lower highs very similarly to when crypto does. And the way that this most recent dump has played out, it was the dollar started to bounce, metals pulled back, crypto pulled back, and then stocks pulled back. It was like a dominoes effect. And when markets are all correlated better, when you have one stock exchange, you got all the bots and the algos, or one exchange, Coinbase, whatever, all the bots and algos are interacting with each other there. And when you start to involve all these different markets that don't have these bridges that are as easily set up, then there's more delay, and that gives more time for humans to react. You know, if something happens in the S&P 500, there's so many bots and algos that they instantly react. You know, I'm not going to outtrade an algo on a news reaction by speed. That's just never going to happen. But with these markets having some disconnect, it does allow for that potential. So if we're paying attention to these other markets, we can get clues. And it's not necessarily the kind of thing where I would say, you know, maybe if you want to be aggressive, you'd say, oh, the S&P 500 is bouncing. I think Bitcoin's going to break bullish. I'm entering a bullish order. But it can help us with a lean. We don't even have to act on it. But our, you know, interpretation of what's the most likely scenario can be influenced to a certain degree based on what these other markets are doing. So that is why we are constantly covering all these markets. I'm not trading, you know, aside from my gold position, I haven't traded commodities in a really long time. I haven't traded the dollar in a really long time, but it does influence all the things that I do trade. So we need a wide lens scope of economic markets. Do good things. Have a good day. Got some monarch butterfly caterpillars on their food, which are these milkweeds.